Hey there, it is Jeff with missionmusician.com, and today I want to talk about different ways to treat a snare drum. I tend to obsess over snare drum sounds to the point where I just fiddle with it too much, but I've come up with a lot of different ways of making a snare pop out through the mix, and not necessarily all my ways, just things I've picked up over the years. So I'm using I'm going to build here off of the video I shot on mixing slate drums, and if you didn't watch it, you can watch it on my YouTube channel. I'm just going to play a second of this. This is already mixed, so let's take a listen. And you know what? It's probably better that I just go ahead and bypass everything really quick. If I can hit the right keys here, and then I'll bring all the plugins back in and you can hear the difference. Right, so that sounds slamming. It's punchy, it's warm, it's fat, it's all the ridiculous words we use to describe audio. It sounds great to me. But if it didn't, there's different ways we can address things or address the snare drum, and that's what I want to talk about today. So for now, I am going to bypass the reverb, and let's listen to just the snare. Okay. So one of the things that I like to do sometimes is send the snare to a different track, and let's do this. Let's send to a new track, and we'll just use a mono track and call this snare distortion, and you guessed it, we're going to add distortion to it. I'm going to send it as a pre. And let's solo that. Make sure we're getting it. Okay, we are. And let me send this out to the right bus really quick. Okay, now there's lots of different things you can use for distortion. I'm going to try just the air distortion first. Let's see what this sounds like. And let me back the mix off and just gradually bring it in. Hear how that gives that fat, low overtones to it. Right, so we could blend that in with the snare and see how that sounds. It kind of sounds a little sterile without that, and when you add it in, it gives that, I don't know, it just gives it some oomph. Let's listen one more time, bypass, and then I'll bring it in. See, I love that. I absolutely love that. Let's try something else here. Let's try a free plugin called Saturation Knob. This is free from SoftTube. You can go download it if you don't have it. Let's bring this up and let's see what we can do with this. So it's given it a lot more body, a lot more fullness, And I mean, when you blend it in underneath, you can't really tell that it's distorted, but it's just really, it sounds good. I like that. Let's try, let's see. Well, I'll tell you what, let's try, let's see here. Let's get into Slate plugins here, and let's try to drive the FG76. Let's see what this sounds like. So I'm using this EQ to drive the signal a little harder. I actually was driving a little too hard, but bringing out some crack in the snare as well, around the 3K range. All right, so let's listen to this. All right, so that's one way you can treat a snare and or parallel process it and really overdrive it. Another way is to use compression, and I'm actually going to use a different compressor. I'm going to use Big Blue here. All right. All right, so that's kind of an interesting sound. Let's see what that does. All I did was I set the release to where the needle was resetting back to 0 before the next hit, and we got kind of a fast attack here. Actually a really fast attack to lop off the transient and kind of round it over. All right, so that's one. That's another way you can treat a snare. And then kind of an interesting thing to do sometimes is, let me send this to a new track. I'm going to use a stereo track this time, and I'm going to call it Snare Room, and I'm going to send it pre. I think I'm going to send it pre. Let's see. Solo this, and I'm going to load up Trigger. And for some reason, Trigger is under Dynamics. I don't know why. And then I'm going to, well, first thing we're going to do is, what is the first thing I'm going to do? Let me think for a second. Let me see here. Let's try a DW. Let's just, I guess I should have tried to set this up beforehand. All right. Yeah, I'm not really feeling that. Let's see what room B does. So you can simulate a room if you don't have a room mic by using trigger, which is kind of a cool thing to do. I actually do that a lot to create more depth in the mix. I just use a room, and you can even take it one step further. Let me kind of kill the transients on this with a plugin I like to use from time to time called Oxford Transmod. And what it does is it takes the attack away. You can hear when it's on, it pushes the snare way back. Take a listen. I'm going to start at bypass, and then I'll kick it on. See how it gives that depth? Makes it seem like it's in a larger space. You can also take a compressor, and you can make the room bigger with the compressor. Let's blend that in. And that gives a much different sound than just a reverb. It actually puts it in a pretty cool space and makes it sound bigger and fuller and just really alive. I like that. And let me think if there's anything else. All right, there is one other thing we can do, and I'm going to use VMR, and let me turn that off and mute that, and I'm just going to EQ this a little bit different. Let's see. Okay, so I'm just screwing around now and just EQing and saturating, and I'm going to blend that in with this snare. So it's given some more overtones to the snare. So that's just some different things that you can try on a snare drum. You could try distortion. You could try some type of saturation plug-in. You know, another good one for this is VTM. I actually use it on the snare itself, but you can drive this a little bit hotter than normal. Gives that snare some fatness and brings the body into it, and just really cool thing to do. I like doing that a lot too. VTM is probably my all-time favorite plugin, just because of what it does to everything. It's just beautiful. So there you go. There's a couple different ways to treat a snare drum to add color, add warmth. One more thing I want to try. Sorry. Let's pull up VMR and let's get aggressive with the FGN, because this thing adds some pretty cool character. All right, let's blend this in. I promise this will be the last one. Let's see what this sounds like. Yeah, add some depth. So the more depth you can get on your snare, the more three-dimensional it'll sound, instead of just a thin click in a track. It'll sound fuller and deeper and more body, and sound like it's recorded in a cool room, just by applying some of these techniques. So hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the blog. Subscribe to my channel if you like this type of stuff, and comment below if you'd like. Thanks.